Good day, everybody. Back on another episode of the Conveyor podcast. Today we have John Bodrozic from Homezada to talk with us about organizing everything and managing everything related to your home. So welcome aboard today, John. How's it going in North Cal today?
Thank you very much, Quinn. It's fantastic. I'm living the dream every day. Entrepreneurship is a passion, and I enjoy it.
That's excellent. So can you give me a quick rundown for the audience here of Homezada? Give us sort of the state of the union on your business and the problem you solve for customers.
Sure. For homeowners in North America, US and Canada, et cetera, everyone says the home's your biggest asset and largest expense, but there's no single login to see all the data about your house. It's scattered everywhere, Google spreadsheets, Dropbox drives, et cetera. So we wanted to consolidate all that into one place to really help homeowners be smarter and make better financial and physical decisions on how to manage, maintain, protect, improve their home. So we've built out a whole platform to help you track home inventory for insurance, create a maintenance calendar for you, track your remodels, consolidate all your financials. We've been a very aggressive adopter of generative AI technology. So we've now sort of incorporated this concept of homeowner AI, which creates property-specific advice that's going to give you answers about your specific home, your specific address when you sort of engage in it. We went to market B2C because we had to prove that we could get homeowners to sign up and use it and even pay a subscription fee for it. We also have a B2B model where it could be used by real estate agents, insurance agents to kind of give a branded gift. We also, beyond sort of the individual professional, we also have corporate opportunities to engage with rather large industries that are looking for customer engagement platforms, because they may have sold you the insurance policy or the mortgage or a home improvement retailer, but they're looking to sort of provide that value add.
And so what's your success been to date on the startup? So headcount, customers, states, provinces that you're in?
Yeah, great question. So this is my second startup. So when we started this one, we knew that this was going to be a rather large software development lift. The tagline of everything about your home in one place sounds simplistic, but there was a lot of work to kind of build out this whole platform. So the first major success is building out this unique platform, and in the last 12 months incorporating AI into it, which has been just a massive sort of success with our customers. So that's been success one. Success two is as my second startup. The first one was a B2B software company in a different sort of space. We had to learn how to do B2C marketing and sort of digital marketing to get that we could establish a brand, establish trust, get homeowners to sign up, get homeowners to pay for it. So I think we've got over 70,000 customers all across the United States and probably 10 international countries. Pretty interesting sort of demographic of all 50 states in the US, pretty proportionate to population, right? California, Texas, Florida, New York, but every state represented. And then internationally, even though we say it's a US-based product, there are homeowners that find us in Canada, in English-speaking countries, UK, Australia, but even other places. So that's been a great success. And the third success is something I can't really talk about too much, but we've started to build a pipeline of strategic partners opportunities. So we've been talking to some rather large insurance companies, mortgage companies, real estate, home improvement retailers who are in process of sort of realizing the strategic value of what we've created and are looking for kind of like a bigger strategic partnership.
Wow. So there's, excuse me, apologies. So that's sounds like you're in mid-flight building the airplane right now, and you've built the chassis out, you've got that engine going, and with 70, you said 70,000 customers.
People have signed up for it. Yes.
Wow, that's fantastic. So I can imagine the challenge of communicating, creating sort of stickiness, and tapping into partner opportunities, unlocking new features. But it sounds basically like you built kind of like a mini asset management tool for homeowners without them really necessarily knowing that.
Absolutely, you hit the nail on the head. It's sort of like because there's so many dynamics to a home, right? You buy it, then you have to insure it, then you've got all your, electronics and personal property in it, then you have to maintain it, you got to clean the gutters, you got to drain the hot water heater, then you want to remodel it, then you're like, hey, we've been living in this house for 5 years, how much equity do we have? Should we sell? Should we stay? So many sort of what I call it's the continuous journey of home ownership. It never ends. And so, yeah, in your analogy, we've definitely built the plane. We've put gas in the engines and we've taken off, and we know this thing can fly, but now we need more fuel in the engine to sort of take this thing off and do longer journeys and longer flights, which is part of the sort of next phase of our entrepreneurial challenge, which we're quite excited about. Scale what we know works.
So the Conveyor podcast is not just learning about amazing startups that are launching in mid-flight. It's about learning how experienced business leaders like John here go about managing their communications in order to meet their professional goals. So, John, you said that your first startup was in B2B, and you've had to learn about B2C marketing. What have you learned? What have you gleaned jumping into the wild world of B2C?
Oh, man, I don't know if we have enough time on this podcast to get into everything I've learned. I'll try to condense it to the top sort of things. Number one is you have, like 6 seconds to make a first impression with a consumer. And if you have a digital product like us, it's got to be done via digital means. And you got to give consumers enough information to sort of test and try it without engaging with you. So you have to make it self-service. So the communication has to be clear, concise. It's got to capture their attention. It has to have an emotional quotient to it. It can't just be like, features and value prop. It's got to like tug at some sort of emotions. Different than the B2B world where the price tag of the product is a little bit bigger. There's more of what I call a sales process where humans get involved. People ask, hey, can I get more information? Let's set up a demo. Let's kind of go through that process. With the B2C world, you got to capture their attention in a digital way in 6 seconds, drive them to your website, try to communicate more in the next minute over what they're going to do because they're only going to look at 1 or 2 pages, probably spend 90 to 120 seconds on your site, and then make it very easy for them to kind of sign up and try it and kick the tires.
And tell me a bit about that initial trust building exercise or emotional quotient, as you put it. What did you have to learn? Because with a little bit of, maybe to provide a little context, or what I'm guessing here is that you're feeding folks. It's not quite medicine. It's not, you're either selling vitamin or medicine, and
yes.
so you're there's only a small slice of people who will be very proactive about keeping all of their house information in a very organized way. And so I imagine that you are in a bit of an early adopter to late majority type of chasm where you're trying to educate folks and convert them around how much they need this service. Because the folks who will already be organized and already understand asset management or residential properties probably have old legacy systems, and you may or may not be trying to convert them. You're trying to create a new type of opportunity for folks who just kind of want to be shown the path based on your preset templates and AI, right?
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot that you said there, and I'll try to address of it as much as I can. So you're absolutely correct. When we think of what we do, and this is kind of also part of the communication, we call it a digital home management platform. Or now we even say like an AI-powered digital home management platform. So that in and of itself is what I refer to as a greenfield opportunity. if I was to magically survey every 100 million homeowners in the United States, and I asked them, what do you use to track the data about your house? The answer predominantly is, spreadsheets, Dropbox, cloud storage, and my mobile device to store some photos. So even the people that are using that, what I call generic tech to manage the house, the people that understand, okay, well, I have 3 spreadsheets for 3 different remodels, and I've got Dropbox over here, and I got Google Cloud over here, and my spouse has some phones over there. Even the technology that they're using is not consolidated in one place, so they're not getting a very holistic picture of their home. Then there's the subset of homeowners who, when you ask them the question, where's the data about their house, you get a glassy-eyed look, and the answer is, it's in paper scattered everywhere in my house. It's in a desk drawer, it's in a closet, it's this, that, and the other, and they don't necessarily realize that there is value in sort of using a tool like Homezada. But it also gets back to one of your other points, which was communicating digital home management platform may not make sense to a lot of the audience today because it is an early kind of adopter kind of phrase. So the reason why consumers sign up is very, very different. And that's both opportunity and challenge, because we have every demographic of homeowner who signs up for it, from the Zers or millennials who can afford to buy their own home, to the Xers and the boomers, to even seniors who are comfortable using technology. So they usually sign up for one of those 4 or 5 main things. They've finally saved up $50,000 to do a kitchen remodel, so they're looking for just the tool to help them manage the kitchen remodel budget. Or they've bought their first home and they're like, my home doesn't come with an owner's manual. Is there a home maintenance schedule that's going to tell me what to do and when to do it? Or, unfortunately, you live in, Florida where there's hurricanes, or recently, obviously, the fires in LA. You see people lose their homes, and it's a tragic situation. And they're now in kind of a bit of a challenge trying to get properly reimbursed from their insurance company. And the people who didn't lose their house hear the stories, and they're like, you know what, I should stop procrastinating and get a home inventory for that what if scenario. So it's almost, my other co-founder talks about this, it's like micro messaging to the matrix of the different generations of homeowners, the different kinds of homes. Did you buy a home that's brand new, or did you buy a home that's 50 years old? Managing a home in LA is different than managing a home in Minnesota. And they may be looking at a different trigger point to sort of sign up for the tool. Then clearly our goal is solve that initial need, but make it sticky so that they grow into the platform as they continue to use it, hopefully the rest of their life as a homeowner.
You brought up two really important strategies, or 2 important concepts, I think, when it comes to communications. It's really hard to motivate and convert folks when it comes to call to actions around things that are far off into the future. I use this analogy. So I'm working with a brain health client who's the main thing around brain health is prevention. Once you have things like cognitive decline, it's usually too late to make a outstanding impact. And so the analogy that we've used is retirement savings. The compounding happens earlier. There's far more value. And if you start right when you need it, it's too late typically. And so what happens, and really interesting statistically, is that it's folks who you see beside you, or folks in your network that you kind of, through osmosis or empathy, feel, you feel how acute the issue is as it happens. Using your LA fires analogy, you're in a simulated sort of like point where all of this matters when it actually might not at the moment. And so the
Correct.
folks who tend to take care of their brain health are the ones who have had horrible, parental or sort of role model folks that have had dementia or Alzheimer's or something to that effect. They appreciate it, and it's more acute. And so and another important thing is sort of this education bit. What I find with a lot of marketing, once you're forced into educating before selling, especially with the attention deficit, the attention crisis in the in the marketing economy right now. It's really hard to capture attention and win minds over at the moment. The last thing you brought up was really interesting, and I was hoping you were going to go there because I was kind of guessing this was sort of the direction. I imagine that the different aspects of Homezada fit somewhat neatly into different types of modules. So there'd be different feature sets for what you're trying to do with your home. For example, remodeling and construction, maintenance, maybe finance and insurance. And so what my guess was that you're not selling the full platform up front. You might be actually marketing individual feature sets and modules. And was that sort of tell me about that discovery process, that conversation with the market that you had?
Yeah, that's an ongoing discussion, and it's a never-ending one. And we think we've cracked the nut, but even if we've cracked one nut, we may not have cracked all the nuts in the bag, so to speak. But yes, it kind of dovetails from our previous startup, was also in what I call the greenfield space. So different market category, but it was like, hey, we've got a new platform out there. So essentially, that dynamic was. You talked about how we built trust. So we had to commit to building a blog up front, right? And we create lots of content. A lot of that is designed to create educational content, but it also designed to create trust. Because if somebody gives us a minute of their time to come to our website, they might go, okay, well, let's Google these guys. Let's see how long they've been around. Let's see what content they're producing. So content can help educate, and create trust. And you're absolutely correct. We look at it as twofold. One is, like you said, we could market individual feature sets for that point in the sort of homeowner journey. Like home inventory is usually top of mind when you've renewed your insurance policy and your insurance company says, hey, we really recommend you have a home inventory. A project is probably triggered based on whenever you decide it's time to do an investment into your home. Maintenance is one of those things that's ongoing because there's things that you should do to your home where, depending on where you live, also in the winter versus the spring versus the fall, right? And then there's when do you really think about your home as a financial asset? You start to think about it as, hey, should we sell it or should I get a home equity loan? So there's those kind of what I call marketing messages. And then there's the flip side, which is a different sort of marketing messages, which is almost targeted towards life events based on your generation over where you are as a homeowner. There's a lot of people that sort of like, I've lived, I'm 25, I've lived in an apartment for 5 years, I want to buy my first home. So there's first time homeowner content where they know that they want to do it. All their family and friends have done it, or older siblings, and they're like, I want to buy my first home. Where am I going to get advice to know what to do when I actually buy my first home? Or it's the opposite end of the spectrum. It's like you're 65 years old, your kids are all out and gone, and you're like, it's time to downsize. And downsizing is, moving into a smaller home. Or you are in your mid-30s and you're like, hey, real estate could be an investing opportunity to buy other homes for passive income. I want to become a real estate investor. So there's also these, what I call, the home is so interrelated to people's lives. Think about life triggers that are centered around the home and how you can create messages around those life triggers of the value of the education and the insights you might get by adopting a tool like Homezada.
I was listening to a bio on David Ogilvy, the famous advertising man, and he said that once they found an advertisement that worked, they would run it for 25 or 30 years. And the reason was that, people get married every year. And so there's a new crop of bride and grooms who get married every year. Yes. or a new crop of folks who get married.
Yeah.
And so the customers replenish itself, basically. Your target market replenishes itself. So so that sounds like Odyssey that you are undertaking, finding sort of the right entry point. And it might just shift over time as well. Sometimes the market ends up shifting because all of a sudden, say, the whole market, home automation, all of a sudden becomes commonplace, and
Yes.
then you'll be able to follow some tailwind from that end of things.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to, we call it trigger events. Sometimes they could be different sort of things. Unfortunately, disaster for the people that didn't lose their homes, that's an emotional trigger of like, okay, I've been procrastinating enough, time to do something. But a positive trigger point is, great, we finally saved up 50 to 100 grand to do some remodel and put a pool out and do a landscape. I need a tool to kind of help me budget and do shopping and research of like, which products am I going to use and all that other kind of stuff. So and candidly, the homeowner AI has been pretty, it's kind of, this is one of these like post sign up emotional triggers, which is when you say to somebody, homeowner AI, like take a picture of your living room or family room and have AI detect all the objects, estimate the value, and come up with a description. Oftentimes people are like, I want to test this AI. Maybe I've used some chat GPT and I got some text answers, but the concept of a photo and having it process the things inside your home, I've seen customer reaction to that post sign up of like, they're like completely blown away. And that becomes, you're hooking them emotionally into the product because the technology has wowed them like never before in the context of managing their home.
You're introducing them to, you're introducing them to a use case of AI, which ultimately introduces them to AI. It sounds like, to
without a doubt.
Yeah,
without a doubt. And if you just give me 1 minute just to explain why I think this is so amazing for people, even for the people who've tested AI a little bit or a lot, right? It's kind of like my experience with generative AI when I started using it about 12 to 18 months ago, testing it, it's kind of like, okay, it was dependent on how good my question was. And if my question was a short 3-word question, I would get a decent response. As I gave it more data, I would get a better response. But that flies in the face of a consumer homeowner where they don't want to type in a bunch of data. It's just too time consuming. Can't I just submit a photo and push a button? Can't I just have a little text link that it says, tell me what ROI I'm going to get on these potential home improvement projects? So when you minimize the data entry and then the results come back specific to your house, I think that's the most important thing. Because when you sign up with Homezada, we encourage you to give us your address. So at sign up, you might live in a 2,000 square foot home that's 25 years old on the beach in San Diego, or a 4,000 square foot home that's 7 years old in Detroit, Michigan. The AI answers the same question differently because it automatically knows what you need to do to maintain your home in a warm climate like San Diego is different than one in Minnesota. And the one that's 25 years old has more maintenance and remodel issues versus the one that's only 5 years old. So that is what amazes people about us essentially introducing them to AI, is property specific advice around your home, not generic advice that you get from a generic web search or even a generic generative AI tool.
This is giving me Zillow, folks just casually scrolling on Zillow to see the value of their neighborhood or dream homes across the continent, I guess. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's the amount of incorporating AI into our platform is really absolutely amazing. And we have our own podcast because we're trying to obviously continue to, again, just another way of getting the message out. So my co-founder and I are on our own podcast, and oftentimes we highlight these different use cases around AI because, let's face it, my personal opinion is we are on the baseball metaphor, the first inning of a 9-inning, decade or 2 decade long transformation over how AI is going to change our life. And we're trying to sort of lay that pioneering foundation of Homezada owns Homeowner AI, of basically giving you the best advice, whether you need insurance, real estate, home improvement, finance, whatever advice around your home and specific to it. That's kind of like the foundation that we've created on the technology side. Now it's how do we communicate that back to our communication stories that we've been talking about to the various audiences out there, both consumer and partners.
I definitely agree with you that AI is in the first inning, or the first period. I'm about to watch the Toronto Maple Leafs play here in an hour.
Yes.
So finding all of the, there is that axiom, build it and they will come. But I think that in a busy, distracted, attention bloated world, the AI that's making your product so revolutionary and capable for the average person is ultimately also doing the opposite, in that folks need to hear about you in a distracted world, right? And so what are some current scaling challenges that you're having with communications? Another thing that AI is doing too is that traditional go-to-market channels are all in flux. There's a great VC article that just came out, and it says every go-to-market channel is crap right now, and that's basically the title, and it goes through every single one of them. And my personal philosophy is, your core relationships, almost like Dunbar's number, you need those 150 people to shore up, be on call, be really tightly knit, going in the same direction with you. And that's a very offensive and defensive thing, because very soon, I think, the algorithms are going to cloud our ability to even get in touch with each other and capture more than a few minutes of our attention. I think everything's going to feel good. I think everything will feel good, unless if we're trying to steer the car out of like the lane that is like directly in front of us. And entrepreneurs, by definition, are trying to steer the car in all types of funny directions, right?
Yes.
So long story long, what sort of communication challenges, scaling challenges are you currently having?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and there's probably 2 or 3 answers, so I'll try to knock them all down. One is, if we're going to continue to be a pure B2C company, right, it's finding all those consumer digital channels that we're going to be able to get the attention span and get traffic and get conversions. Most professionals would say, hey, if you're going to do that, John, you need to go out and raise a whole bunch of money and get VC money, which is clearly one opportunity that we're also, pursuing, because then we can build a bigger, you can imagine 120 million homeowners in the US, and the amount of different digital channels that they're all interacting, we could build quite a large B2C marketing team to kind of get really efficient at that. But the second angle to the scaling thing, what we also found was, even in our own B2C marketing, it's sort of that building that brand of Homezada, homeowner AI kind of stuff. We do really well, I think, at conversion rates when we look at sort of people willing to sign up. About 10 to 12% of our traffic to our site signs up, and about 15% sign up for a paid version, because we also have a free version versus the paid version. But the scaling opportunity for us is really what I call different kinds of partnerships. Because here's an example. We did a small pilot, can't talk about the insurance company, but it was an insurance company that said, hey, we need to provide more value to our policyholders. We sell them an insurance and then a policy, and then if they don't file a claim, which most homeowners don't, we don't talk to them until a year later, hoping that we're going to renew the insurance. Can we provide value add? They're like looking at our tool. They're like, yours is like a huge value add. Their marketing team came to us and said, let's do a small pilot. So now we have to use our B2C experience over what converts in terms of messaging, because the corporate marketer is asking us, hey, I'm going to do a campaign to my audience, but I want to use your expertise in terms of the message. Now, when we did that, the conversion rates was like 30 to 40%. Why? Because the message came from somebody that the consumer already had a trusted relationship with.
That is the last podcast I just had was all about how in a distracted world, in one with, first time I'm saying this word today, polarized world,
Yes.
where we do not instinctively trust our arm's length person. I was going to say neighbor, but I'm going to say let's keep trusting our neighbors here.
Yes.
But the arm's length friend of a friend or contact of a contact riding over the trust of like the one-to-one relationship through referrals, partnership networks is going to be by far, I think, one of the most important channels heading into the future here. And so I am not surprised hearing that from you.
Yeah, without a doubt. And for us, given our domain of the home, it falls into even like two subcategories of those kinds of partnerships. One is, let's just call it, there's a ton of pure media companies that have media outlets that talk about the home, right? You can just sort of imagine whether it's HGTV or Sunset Magazine or all lots of different sort of traditional media outlets. Well, they're looking for new revenue streams because their traditional model is generating ad revenue, either in a print magazine or an online website kind of mentality. So they're looking for new products. And so, but they've already got an audience. So it's kind of like what I think is hopefully a match made in a good place, so to speak, right? Which is they have an audience who already trusts them. And Homezada's got a great product that's already developed even on a small scale, trust with our customers. Now, when the two come together, when those customers decide to, sign up for a $99 a year subscription, it's an affiliate marketing revenue share for the media company. So they're turning ad revenue into affiliate marketing subscription revenue on a new product that their audience has been looking for. Right? And that's one angle for the partnership. A different angle for the partnership could be, a real estate brokerage or a mortgage company who's not necessarily interested in a revenue share, but they want a co-branded version of our product. So when they drive their customers, hey, Mr. Customer, thanks for getting a mortgage from us, bank of whatever, here's this subscription to help you manage your house. They may be willing to pay for the $99 a year subscription in exchange for provided to you by Bank X. We went beyond just selling you the mortgage. We're giving you this homeowner AI platform to help you manage your home for the next 5 to 10 years. The bank wants that sort of brand building opportunity for them. Why? Because 5 years from now, they want you to go to them to get a home equity loan or a personal loan for something else. They want that sort of repeat business, which for those types of companies, it becomes a customer engagement opportunity. But both of those, exactly like you said, is why we are focused on those two angles of essentially trying to scale what we think is, what we know candidly is a fantastic product given our own B2C experience. And now it's just, how do we crack that nut to scale it on a bigger basis? And partnerships was where we're spending the bulk of our focus.
What I originally thought you meant when you said partnerships were that folks who had already downloaded and are active users would be marketed opportunities from within the app. So if something was flagged in the app using the AI, that their pool liners depreciated or something like that.
Yes.
Or the pump, something's gonna go. Their hot water heater is at 8 years. Well, the hot water heater company could market to them from inside the app, and you could potentially aggregate opportunities in there.
Well, you are 100% correct. And this goes back to sort of the, where are we in our journey of our startup? So we do have an ad content platform built inside of Homezada today. So yes, part of this. So the technology is there. We just first need to scale more users beyond our 70,000. We want to get to like 1 million or 2 million, and then turn on that ad platform, because then, yeah, if you're the local pool service person in Phoenix or Miami, Florida, then you can sort of connect yourself to a customer who our product knows has got, a 12-year-old pool and needs some sort of extra servicing. So that is definitely part of our roadmap. A, we need to make a little bit more enhancements in the product. B, I think we need a larger install base. But then C, that is why we're so excited about sort of the next 5 to 10 year decade of opportunity with Homezada, because that is absolutely what you said, also part of the partner vision.
Well, what's your personal communication philosophy as an entrepreneur? So do you send out regularly messages to employees, to potentially investors if you have them in this firm, partners? Do you send? It's very common now in early stage companies to bring people along, build in public while they're getting their feet underneath them. It sort of expands the surface area for people to know what they're looking for, whether it's key hires, key metrics, or folks who are lukewarm to investment to come around to it. So what is your what have been sort of your approaches to communicating as a business leader, not just to customers?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it varies depending on, like you said, the different audience that we might be talking to. Like, for instance, on our team, there's 3 co-founders. So my other co-founder, Elizabeth, she's the one that sort of is responsible for signing up our affiliate partners. So she communicates on a monthly basis with an affiliate partner newsletter, meaning even though you signed up for an affiliate, we want to constantly remind you of the new AI features and how to grow your revenue and those kinds of things. So there's a regular cadence to those existing partners. Part of my regular cadence is something I call thought leadership, right? Because the concept of homeowner AI, I think, is so early. I try to, publish on LinkedIn in terms of thought leadership pieces. I also got included in a personal finance brand called Kiplinger. They had like an advisory community where they offered me an opportunity to become a guest contributor to write sort of thought pieces there. So that's kind of like the thought leadership, and that thought leadership may have an audience of either A, the direct consumer homeowner, or B, the different subset of potential partners, because a thought leadership piece to insurance executives may be different than a thought leadership to, real estate or mortgage kind of mentality. So that's another angle that I do. We do have, some angel investors. So with those, it's just kind of based on how our investor docs are put together in terms of a regular communication on where we stand on that. I also have done this in my previous company as well. There's the regular cadence of we're sort of pitching the company to potential new investors. So there's that pitch deck. That kind of goes up and down depending on whether we want to be really proactive in trying to find new investors, which we're kind of in that phase now of ramping up because we know we were onto something big. So there's the outreach to those investor types. Candidly, I work with my other co-founders even on generating cold emails, right? How do we do cold email campaigns, and how do we make them short, concise, audience specific, drive traffic, whether it's awareness or brand or trying to drive some traffic and ultimately a conversion. So again, as an entrepreneur, you wear so many different hats in the course of the day. You're not limited to one audience. You've got 5 or 6 different sort of key stakeholders. And so I try to use different approaches depending on which stakeholder we're trying to get to.
Yeah, I think talking to you, because I haven't talked to a B2C founder in a little while, that the sheer scope, I feel like when you're in B2B, you might have only a handful of customers. And so you maybe falsely assume that you can manage all of your professional contacts that are connected to your business on your own.
Yep.
And then on the flip side too, marketing, it's a very familiar thing to hand off marketing, which is related to generating qualified leads, your brand, but it isn't quite commonplace to hand off some of these key relationships, key communication components. And so what I'm finding is that there's a little bit of a gap between folks who do it naturally and are quite proactive versus folks who they may, they tend to make up for doing that by being either successful or great builders, but don't exactly do it. And there's kind of this sort of assumption that the business owner, the C-suite will handle this for as long as they are in that role, which is really quite interesting. But
it's definitely it's definitely an interesting dynamic because on one side of the fence we have this audience of consumers. On the other side of the fence we have all these different potential partners, from media to insurance to this, that, and the other. So there's both a B2B component as well as a B2C component, and then layer on top of that, as a startup, it's kind of like I might have certain strengths in my communication of those different choices, but it's also a time limiting factor because the comms part of my job is not 100% of my job. I'm still working with our CTO and building new product, or I'm working with our other founder on the chief go-to-market side of helping her kind of trying to develop messages to go after affiliate partners. So, it's kind of like when, and in my previous company, I was fortunate that, it grew to like 250 person company. So I saw my own personal journey of like, okay, I'm a founder, I'm doing a lot of the communications up front, but then as you scale and grow more people, you bring on those people, you get them smart enough to champion your message to certain stakeholders, and then they come up with their own ideas. And my adage is hire people smarter than you. And then they end up basically saying, okay, I know what the foundation is that, the founding team put together. Now I'm going to take it even farther because we've hired them for an expertise that we don't have on that messaging. And that's candidly the next phase that we're looking for, which is we've learned a lot as a founding team about the consumer marketing into these different markets. But we by no means have some sort of long resume of being experts at consumer marketers. We want to bring those people on board, teach them what we've learned, teach them the platform, and then let them kind of scale and grow this thing in a massive opportunistic way.
Even just being agile and building your startup, hearing how you have a B2B background, but you had to grow and you had many stakeholders if you had 250 people in the company. But even just hearing about sort of how the dominoes have fallen through this discovery process with Homezada, you built a B2C app. You learned that folks, you had to learn how to convert them in 6 seconds or less.
Right.
You then had to figure out every other step of the funnel so that there's enough of a retention for people. And it sounds early on, so you're still probably sorting through some pretty big ambiguities there at the moment. And then you put in all that effort sort of optimizing and figuring out this consumer experience, and you might enjoy that. That might be a great skill fit for your founding team, but you have to be agile enough where, since you've done that, you are now exploring partnerships and B2C, which is a totally different outreach communication strategy. And so you had to do B2C first to discover an easier way to do partnerships. And then getting the people on the bus who are stars, who are these marketing stars, oops, or maybe the pivot is this bigger thing over here, and just the agility required to kind of move that way and just be open to trying to reach people, develop these relationships, is really, it's really dynamic. It's awesome to hear about that.
It is, and I learned from my other co-founder as well, because she engages in a lot of this, and it's kind of like that learning experience when we had that insurance company that do the pilot. Well, the pilot came from like the business development sort of team looking for new products, but they didn't control the internal marketing resources at the insurance company that actually conducts the marketing campaign to their audience, to their customer base. So the business development team wanted to move forward with this, but the marketing team was like, well, what is Homezada and how do we market it? And so you have to even learn, when you go after these bigger companies, what are the internal dynamics over what is the corporate marketing arm responsible for, and how can you find an allocation for them to say, okay, let's test or try this, and what's the message that they want to deliver, because now it's a joint message. It's coming from insurance company X, but they're the ones who are saying, hey, Mr. Customer, we think you should, sign up for Homezada. It's kind of also working that joint kind of message. And the next week, it might be a mortgage company or a real estate brokerage or a home improvement retailer. So even those are sort of different, which is, again, it's kind of like the entrepreneurial pain and joy that you experience, every 5 minutes going up and down. There's such a tremendous opportunity, but there's such a massive scale over additional resources and skill sets, especially on the communication side, that we need to bring into the company.
Yeah, it's like, are your communications, is the vision you are casting and trying to navigate with your team very literal about what you do, or figurative around what you do? Like, is the Homezada app branding, customer experience, is that what you're going to stake your relationships on with your customer, or is it the way that it works, and it's okay that a mortgage company can relabel it and potentially even be customized in a way that fits for them too? There's a really good book by Bob Sutton. I think he's a Stanford professor. He wrote a book. It's called Scaling Up Excellence, and he compares. He uses all these really good comparisons in a corporate world around failures, like Target came to Canada, for example, where I am, and they failed. And there are very similar lookalike businesses. And so the idea was, and then another example is a Big Mac's a Big Mac's a Big Mac anywhere in the world. And so he uses the analogy of Jesuit missionaries, which had 400 rules for everything. And it was like, what underwear you wore to what you ate for breakfast was literally like a rule. And then the other thing was was Buddhism, where it's like, celebrities in Hollywood can be Buddhists, monks that give up all their worldly possessions are Buddhists. There's those 4 or 5 principles, and as long as you follow that, you can even be a Christian Buddhist, hypothetically.
Sure, absolutely.
And so the idea of like how literal or figurative, and how well, the tension internally of managing and like delegating that vision into your team is really quite interesting.
Yeah, and it's an evolving thing. Again, like I said, I think we've done a pretty darn good job of proving product market fit with consumers, in the fact that we've, with a guerrilla marketing budget, acquired 70,000 people that have signed up. And then we're still on that journey of learning with the partners, meaning what value proposition do they want, and how does that get communicated? And today, like out of the box, what we tell the partner is it's a co-branded offering, meaning, yes, their brand is still showed up at the top, but it's not. It ties into what I call vendor lock-in. Meaning if they end up like not liking their mortgage company anymore, but they like Homezada, so now we have to deal with that sort of situation. So, there's so many sort of nuances when you think about partner messaging, but out of the box, we tell the partners, yeah, you can have co-branding, where you can even get into that, market additional products, build a strategic ecosystem. There have been some partners that have talked about sort of that pure white label, And the answer is, yeah, it's an opportunity. It's just a bigger opportunity that both parties have to roll up their sleeves and create the business case for that. And I've done that in the past with my previous company. We just haven't found that yet, although there's been enough people that have expressed interest. So we're willing to have those discussions. It's just, does the other partner on the end really want to engage in that level of deep partner opportunity?
Yeah, is it enough to kind of reevaluate your development plan, basically, would be the key thing you'd have to look at, I assume, there. So
yeah, that's just one of them. Development, customer support. I mean, right? Like, we built a pretty good product where our consumers can sort of figure it out on their own, but we've got a lot of YouTube content and blog content, which sort of helps them use it. But all that content is around Homezada. If a partner was to completely white label this thing, well, now when their customer says, well, how do I upload photos? How do I process AI? Who's going to create that additional content? Right? So there's that customer support self-service piece, as well as the what do we do forward in terms of the ongoing software development roadmap. So the good thing for us is I've done this before, so we know what all the potholes are, but it's definitely a doable, partnership strategy for us. It's just got to come with the right partner who understands what they're getting into. At the end of the day, it's what I call a three-way win. It has to be a three-way win. A homeowner has to win, otherwise we both lose. And then they have to win, and they have to tell us what metrics and what constitutes a win for them, and we have to win as sort of the technology provider for this, and what we need in order for a win. As long as we can make three of those things work, then it becomes a great opportunity for scale for both parties.
John, I've appreciated this chat, learning about Homezada and the journey that you're on. I wish you all the best and that you build and scale and help out not just those 120 million homeowners, but probably the, let's say, 12 or 15 million here in Canada too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is there any sort of closing thoughts or anything that you'd like to add or call to action?
I mean, I appreciate your having me on, number one. Number two is I'm passionate about building product that creates value for customers, but I also realize the challenge of communicating, especially when you've built something new and innovative, the challenge of how to communicate that to people. And that's probably, of those two, I'm probably stronger on building product and not as strong as communicating. So people that give us advice on how to be a better B2C marketer, we welcome any of that feedback. So, find me on LinkedIn. Not too many John Bodrozics on LinkedIn. Happy to connect with you there. For those people in your audience who may be interested in more about Homezada, pretty easy, homezada.com. You can find us there as well and contact us. So we encourage dialogue with any and everybody because it always makes us better. So thank you for your feedback and your audience's opportunity to engage with us as well.
Thanks a lot, John. That's great. Encouraging dialogue. Great wrap to that.